Alright, I'm gonna open the door and persuade. I suddenly opened the door. Yeah, I did it. Of course I would. I didn't want to see that ending again. Reikeko-san was crying. Her voice had been clear and composed, so I assumed that she wasn't feeling anything. I was wrong. She was merely hiding it. I had intended to keep that promise, but both you used it to make me look like a bad guy, so I changed my mind. What was with this aura? Why does it feel like you're trying to be hated because of the past just to make the breakup cleaner? Is it a Fujiyoshiism or something? I'd rejected tons of bothersome women like Chimi in my life, so if it weren't for this issue, I'd be going nuts right now. But I'm about degenerate enough to decide someone like you is too rare to let go, so you should cut it off. Crap, I overdid it. I have no idea what you're thinking, but overhearing all of that made me value you more. I'd have loved to say that to Chimi, too, but that'd make me a cheater, so I'll do something else instead. I'll win her over with some weird as hell reasoning and introduce her to a friend of mine. He's a bit more degenerate than I. Wait, maybe Teach would be better for her. If Chimi-chan doesn't mind slightly ugly baldies, she'd have someone really loyal and...
Haruaki-sama! なんだかよくわからないのですが、なぜこの流れで私を...
Like I said, I want to play this by my own rules. I don't want somebody else telling me how I should feel. Even if everyone else hates something, I'll happily take it. If you want me to hate you, find a better way to go about it. You're the one who said that you love me, so you better take responsibility for that. You dumb idiot. Reikeko-san's a moron. You alive? She finally broke. Yeah, seriously, what's that about? And in a way, enough with this personal grudges. Can you consider the bet still on? The one we'd win if we survived and could ask the other for whatever we wanted. If we survive, we can ask for whatever we want, and I'm not planning on asking for anything that'd ruin it.
あなたは本当に不思議な人です。多分きっと芹沢様の言う通り。
I didn't confirm nor deny that.
それでもそう言っていただけて嬉しかった。それだけで
Not good enough? Well,
私
maybe.
はもう十分です。
Adult love wasn't solid enough to play out, though just jokes and improvisation. Then again, we adults could survive without needing anything fancy. It was a virtue as well as a vice. Please give me your answer when you survive tomorrow. You might be killed by the wolves tonight. You took a gamble and revealed yourself to protect Mako and I. If you don't wake up tomorrow, it would mean that I wasn't worthy of asking you something like this. I'll back off if that happens.
Haruaki-sama.
There I was now at a key point. This tragedy-drunk heroine wouldn't die today. It would be the most unfortunate Kori-san. Honestly, I wasn't sure how to feel about that. I would test this once.
最後にお慈悲をいただけないでしょ
No, I will survive the night with this as my goal in
う。
life.
不謹慎ですが嬉しいです。
I was the impotent one here, after all. I was making moves on a girl that could die
それでは
tonight.
さようなら。まだ
Wait.
何か
I could finally get to the main matter at hand. There's something I'd like to ask you, as a night watcher. It was the day after I did the prep work. I approached the plaza with Yoshigu-kun, acted surprised when I heard the bad news. and once again saw the remains of the poor, unfortunate Kori-san. And then I listened to the brothers opening up and saw them find the letter. Noticed that the fingers were placed in the same position as last time. This had to be Chimi's idea. In this particular timeline, she didn't seem to be anything more than a bloodthirsty mad woman. I felt that she'd been the one who decided that destroying the entire body was the way to go, and Mochi didn't hesitate to agree. I'd badly underestimated how warped that boy's personality was. Poor Mimiya-san. I knew she was an enemy, but I couldn't feel sympathy for her. Thus began the feast of the Yomi Purge. Yasunaka-kun presented the scenario set up by the wolves. I turned it around. Everything was about the same as last time. If I didn't change my words, things would go exactly the same as last time. Of course they would. The people I was talking to were the exact same. Strangely enough, I was also the exact same things without relying much on memories from last time. Maybe it wasn't that strange after all. I had the memories of the previous loop. I wasn't the exact same person. If I'd somehow lost the memories of the final moments of the loop, I'd definitely be heading in the same ending right now. But in that case, it didn't matter if everything was the same this time. I could just go with the flow and do the same as last time. After all, it was already over. That's what they were betting on, I assume. Fortunately for them, it didn't work. Just like last time, everyone focused on Chikamochi and had a half smile on his face.
ハッサンやりっちゃんが本物だってのも決まってないわけだしさ。
And just like last time, he was bringing up arguments that had already been shot down.
それに香りママの指だってまだああやって読むのが正しいのかも。
もっち。
And just like last time, Chimi.
もういいよ。苦しいよ。さすが。
じゃあ。
うん。やるとしようよ。
And they went and did it. They drew the guns from their sleeves. I had been wondering why Mochi was in his school uniform this time, and this made me realize it was to hide the gun. The barrels and the grips on them both were cut really short, probably for the same purpose. One of them was aimed in our direction, while the other was aimed at Konzo, who was already cleared, charging at them. They immense their change, paralyzed everyone except him and Takumi-san, who would now make a move and die to the shotgun blasts. However, that didn't happen this time. The guns didn't fire anything. A moment after Chimi's expression warped with shock, Konzo-san punched Mochi, while Takumi-san tackled Chimi. Her lightweight body was thrown backwards and hit the wall. Takumi-san quickly grabbed the shotgun, aimed at the floor, pulled the trigger to ignite the shell in the other chamber. Once again, the gun didn't fire. He frowned, then opened it up, removed the cartridge, and threw them along with the gun. Konzo handled his situation a different way. He simply pointed Mochi's gun back at its former master. His face swollen due to the punch, he was covered down and glaring at Konzo. Bring the rope. Takumi-san took advantage of her staggering and pushed her down. She couldn't move at all. Things became a bit disorderly as we tied them up, and now it was relatively calm here. What the hell was that about? Those words weren't directed at anyone, but everyone besides me related to him. Konzo-san said that while looking at the shells from the shotguns he took in from Mochi, everyone understood what that meant. Exactly. There was no way the cartridges she checked just yesterday were switched in a single evening. The only ones with the idea who was responsible for this paranormal phenomenon was Reikako-san. Last night I asked her to catch Chimi and have a cat fight with her. That gave me the time I needed to go into Chimi's room, mess with her equipment, and a lot of it depended on luck. I needed a couple of loops, but I somehow pulled it off. It wasn't fair in the least, but my life was at risk here, and I actually died, so I didn't care much. Everyone continued to talk about how the shells were replaced, but since I decided to stay quiet, they didn't reach a conclusion. Now everyone was left with the harsh truth that these two were wolves, who just tried to... Thus everyone began talking and about how to handle them. Yasunaka-kun suggested we tie them up and lock them somewhere. He argued that, and that we knew that they were the wolves. All we had to do was prevent any further murders, make them unable to move. Kanzo-san was thoroughly against that, suggesting that we instead hang them over today and tomorrow. When we asked for his reasonings, he insisted that wolves had to be hanged, and their argument wasn't going anywhere. Most of the Kanzo-san's decisions were influenced by the legend and his own experience, so he didn't have a proper way to deal with this unorthodox. Yasunaga-kun had, on the other hand, was bound by a conscience and emotion, making Kanzo-san's option unacceptable for him. That left me no choice but to weigh in. May I say something? Now everyone, even Kanzo-san, lended an ear to my words. It took too long for me to get to this point. Makishima-san, you believe it's important to kill one per day, not anymore, right? While Yasunaga-kun just doesn't want to kill them at all. Yes, I admit it. Now that the culprits are no longer a supernatural phenomenon, I believe we should leave their judgment to the rule of law. What they did is unforgivable, but we shouldn't be the ones to punish them. We only did the previous because it was an emergency and we had no other choice. Since they aren't a threat to us when bound, we can just leave them like that and wait for the mist to clear. And if it doesn't, we will be left with no choice but to consider it another emergency that requires drastic measures. The boy was talking sense, but first, I'm not sure if binding them would be effective. What do you mean? The game master here, Great Lord Shinai, can unlock our front doors. Isn't it natural to think he can undo bindings too? That's also, if we only hang one each day, one human would die tonight. They have no chance of winning, but they take this kill.
そうだね。無駄だし。
They were so easy to read. Yasunaka-kun, do you want to know why I'm so certain they would? Yes, do tell. It's because these wolves are extremely cruel. Walk to them. Remember, she suddenly claimed to be the snake on the second day and began acting all strange. It's probably ordered to do it by Chime. There was some noise in the room. Chime was still hanging her head. She probably told Mimiya that being a snake was safe, even though she knew that Konzo was ready to hang anyone claiming to be the snake. And it actually led to Tae-san getting hanged. You planned that, didn't you? Mimiya-san then died that night, and that was probably her doing too. Why would you think that? Because she's an outsider. She couldn't trust her, and it was possible that she was readily betray her. It was highly likely that she would have been hanged the next day, as it was pushing for it after all. These two tricked Mimiya-san into being a scapegoat, and she probably didn't trust them and was afraid of them. It's completely possible that she revealed who the other wolves were. That's why you killed her at night. You basically silenced her. But that would mean that they killed two in one night. No, she was subjected to this corruption. Wolves have roles too, and she went against them. Or rather, she was made to go against them by these two.
全部推測じゃん。
もう何でもいいよ。
Please deny it.
面倒だから言うわ。うん、全部そう。春明さんすごいすごい。ヤス君は思ったより脳みそ幸せな人だったんだね。まあ私らにもいろいろあって、最後まであがかないといけないことになってるからさ。もう質問とかやめてよ。面倒。
Jimmy, Please stop. I understand how you feel, but that'd be a waste of time. You can't reach an understanding with these two who became wolves.
じゃがどうする
My suggestion is that we cut off one's limbs and hang the other. If we do that, then the one without limbs won't be able to go around even if unbound, so we'd probably be safe. If we hang the other one tomorrow, we would be exterminated to the mist. Should clear by the Fusashi, yeah? What did you just say? I'm saying we should keep one from walking around and using weapons like... Huh? What the hell is with their reaction? Is there a problem with that? You're seriously saying we should cut off Chikamochi's or Chimi's limbs? Yes, wouldn't that be enough? If we remove them at base, they couldn't even crawl, right? You really are a lunatic. Huh? That is way too cruel. Huh?
相手が狼とはいえ、それはそこまでは。
What?
ふさゆきさん怖い
Why? Reikako-san.
それは聞きませんが。
Excuse me, but aren't you the ones who hanged a couple of people just because of the history and legends? Yeah,
くく
but
って
we
楽にしてやっておる
put them to rest. I've heard that hanging is actually a really painful way to go. Even if it wasn't, they'd be being lynched because of a popular route. That alone must be utterly terrifying. The wolves so cruelly, and yet you're acting all like this? You're pretty good natured, aren't you? Wait, that's a good thing, isn't it? You mean? Oh, I see. They all fell silent. But even I could understand that there was something with them that made them averse to my idea. Can we break their limbs instead? The effect would be the same, right? Or perhaps Nosato-sensei could poison them in a way that would make them die right about tomorrow? Stop it. I can't ensure that would survive that. The shock from the pain alone might kill them. And I happen to be a doctor. I cannot poison. We are not like the wolves. I see. I understand. I seem to have misunderstood you all. What now, though? I guess someone's dying today. That was such a pain. Why did they argue against my suggestion if they had none of their own?
必要なら私。
いやわしがやる
Don't push yourself. We mustn't do that. Stop it, you all. We can think about this
分かった。
there.
もういい。私今から死ぬからさ。その前にもっち、それで誰も汚れはなしでしょ。
わお最後まで冴えてんね
What are you planning now?
手足をもがれるのは嫌だよ。
Even wolves were afraid of something, huh?
そんじゃまあっちではるちゃんには謝っとくよ
You're not going to the same place as her.
どっかな
くくった方は救われる。逆にする？
どっちでもいいよ
It's fine. Regardless of the way, I'll be over once you die. So I'll take it upon myself. Why did you have
どう
this
しても
happen? What's that supposed to mean?
よくはわかんないんだけどねなんとなくどうしようもなかった気がするんだよね
Yasunaka-kun Orobi punched Moki.
ごめんねやっすんそれだけはごめんね
Rise not. Yasunaka-kun pushed him forward. A moment later, the rope went taut. It shook for a moment, then slowly swayed back and forth. Finally stopped completely. Yasunaka-kun cut the rope. From the mist below, I heard the sound of something soft collapsing, then hitting the shallow water. You're next,
はい
Chimi.
はい。
Isn't this the same as directly?
さあ、新内さんとやらが判断するんじゃないですか。
You're just like that? Without even saying sorry or anything?
だって そういうやつだし、みんな知ってたでしょ。私が上藤吉の悪ガキどもを殺しかけた時にそういう人間だってさ。まあその後できるだけ良い子のふりしてたけどさ、まんまと騙されて。お疲れ。モッチーはああいう性格なのを私が操縦していろいろやってもらった感があるし、怒んないであげて。私が全部悪いで問題ないよ。だから好きに憎んでみんな。
Looking backwards, she stepped onto the
リ
cliff.
カ子さんおめでとう。障害を乗り越えて無事なんとかなりそうじゃん。
読み意味の宴はそういうものではありません。山と共に生きる我らが負った業を未来永劫背負い供養し続ける私はその業を引き取るだけ。
じゃあまた生まれ変わったら今度こそ殺しに行くから。雲の末裔だかなんだか知らないけど、ご大層な教えを語り継ぐための子孫でも作って待ってれば。
そのように悪ぶらずとも。
うるさいな、今から殺すぞ。嘘嘘。じゃあね。
Jamie,
何？
what is God? Her pupils instantly shrunk.
やっぱり一番怖いのはあなただよ、春明さん。よかった、ありがとう、みんなありがとう、自殺させてくれて。
She took 3 steps
手
forward.
足もがれるかもって思った時、本当心底怖かったよ。本当に怖かったよ。春明さん、一緒に狼だったらよかったのに。
I don't want that.
またね。
She turned around and ran as fast as possible into the mist. She jumped. Rise not. I'm going. I alone turned around. But you still haven't. I didn't want to hear it. She'd probably fallen into the world different from ours. I got the impression I wouldn't hear a sound. I didn't want to listen to the echoing silence. Then we went on to the cleanup Cory-san. After spacing out a bit, we cut up all the veggies and then cooked them. It was hard to make a fire in the mist. As people of Fujiyoshi, no one felt like using fires other than the ones in the watering hole. Everyone was adverse to using the dining hall. Thus everyone went to sleep. No, for the first time since the feast began, none of us could sleep. Morning came without us getting any rest. And the mist was gone. No one had died, of course. Everything was as the legend said. With the Okami gone, peace came back to the human village. However, it was hard to celebrate it. Hashimoto, Tei, Hasko Mimiya, Haru, Makishima, the old man who cried wolf, Koyarobi, Chikamochi, and Chimi. A whole 8 people died. Even if 2 of them were outsiders, the settlement had suffered great losses. Everyone had adverse to using fire to dispose of any remaining objects that carried signs of, so it was decided that they would be buried. The tatami, the floor bounds, the futon, all of it. We all also ended up making new gravestones. Kako-san had told us that the graveyard near the tree was full of the feast victims, and there was nothing under the stones. So, has he passed away or something?
大往生でした。
Those who died normally would be burned at the crematorium in Fukami Fujiyoshi. Those who didn't would be thrown into Saranaga and simply vanish. Making sure no one saw me, I went to Sanranaga. There was nothing. No belongings. Just like last time, Sanra was just a thin, shallow stream. However, I did find one thing. It was a pendant. The Yomomatsu Okami symbol was on it. What was this? Is someone wearing it? What did it mean for someone in Fujiyoshi to wear something like this? At this point, I didn't feel like investigating it anymore. Is that strange? No. I felt like that was just how things were. Days passed of us working on this and that. We somehow survived thanks to the food, the fields, and right as we finishing up our work, help arrived. Kaomi Fujiyoshi sent some people to remove the landslide.
大丈夫でしたか皆さん。
It's been a while since I saw Soji Haiguchi. He looked at us friendly as always. Soji, what took you so long?
我々としても作業は進めたかったんだが、どうにも不可解な事故が多発してね。霧が晴れてからようやくそれで皆さんご無事で。
No one answered. Haiguchi began looking sympathetic and started giving some orders to his people. Eventually, we were brought to Kami Fujiyoshi and were made to spend a few days like refugees. Apparently, this was temporary. The village head said they needed time to clean up Yasumizu after the disaster. I really appreciate the 3 daily moves they gave us from the nearby watering hole, and sleeping in a place without any mess at all was pleasant. The food was strangely fancy, and the people bringing it seemed somewhat humble. They always looked down on the people of Yasumizu, but now we stopped the Yomi invasion, they actually reverted us. That was just a guess, though. I was still locked up in here, nothing to do. One day I actually got to see the officer. It actually felt kind of nostalgic at this point.
生きとったか。何よりだ。これお前のだろ。邪魔くさいからとっとと引き取らんか。
My bike. The weeks of exposure to the elements had left it looking really shabby. I had nothing better to do, so I decided to clean
そ
it.
ろそろ復旧も終わりますから、皆さん休みずに戻っていただけます。夫妻子さんもそれで気分転換に遠出でもされたらいかがです？
I actually wanted to return to Yasumizu, though. When I told Takumi-san that I'd take Meiko to the police once everything was settled and then return, he told me that I didn't have to. Rekeiko-san said she'd help him work the fields, and he accepted it. Kanzo fixed his rifle and began hunting again. Yoshitsugu-kun moved to the dorm and he started going to school again. Kiyonosuke would, as planned, become a part-time doctor. And when Kanzo-san returned from our shelter, Kiyonosuke actually looked after him like a proper doctor, which was some impressive character development. In a way, so it was all seemed to be fine here. Takumi-san told me that I didn't have to return. Well, I can't say I don't have stuff for you to do, but you have a place to return to, right? I really wouldn't blame you if you didn't come back, but keep in mind that you have a woman waiting for you here. And honestly, I'm not sure I want to do nothing but farm with her. I'll be back right after I'm done with some business. I did consider returning to the life I had, but I figured I should stay here instead. Well, I guess I'll see you then. Your turn. She was hiding behind that tree. With her pale skin turning rosy, she meeked and walked up to me.
メイコ、その達者に。
What about me?
お姉ちゃん、違うでしょ。房幸さんでしょ。
Even she understood how precautious of her.
春明様、 どうかお元気で。
I'd assumed that the fact that she wasn't treating this like our final meeting was a step forward, but no, I wouldn't let it fly. I hadn't survived just to say goodbye to you. Those words aren't enough for me.
たまには遊びに来てください。
She sure was persistent. You're being a sore loser right now. We're close enough to call each other by name. If you just take one more step forward, I might decide to do something big. There was a lot of things I wanted to give her and take from her. I was sure I'd find happiness if we made proper exchanges, but after all, that was a sole light I'd ever seen in that dreadful mist. I wouldn't give it up on it, no matter what.
春明様、
Yes?
寂しいですから。
Yes, you've been lonely your whole
好
life.
きですから。
Yes, you weren't even allowed to love anyone.
五章ですから。
Yes, for the first time ever, you sought your own
戻っ
happiness.
てきてください。
I couldn't control myself. Whoa, showing off, huh? I let her go, and she looked up at me with angry eyes. She became a lot more expressive, and I found it not lovable. I would live out the rest of my life with her. This journey brought me to something unexpected and led to a really happy ending. I promise. Once I deal with everything outside, I will come back here. Then I'll do my best to say something.
信じて待っております。
Borrowing Higuchi's help, I got everything I needed, secured Mako behind me with a child's belt, and left Fujiyoshi. Upon arriving at the closest city, I presented her a lost child. They asked me some questions, of course. I omitted some things and didn't lie at all. They thought I seemed shady, but I was able to prove my identity, and they let me off.
房雪さん、
She waved all smiles and still couldn't get my name right. This reminded me that nothing that happened in Yasumi Zoo had drawn police attention. I had no idea who'd done or didn't do what to make of it. It turned out like that, but I didn't care anymore. It was just the way it was. What was up with the looping business anyway? Was killing the wolves the condition for ending the loop? If that was the case, then it was caused by something that wanted the wolves to lose no matter what. No other explanation fit. Who would that be, though? Great Lord Shinai? That fit the story, but it often seemed like he didn't have a horse in this race. Also, if his only way to help the humans was to give out the guardians and send me here, then he was a serious bothersome god. Would I go back in time if I died now? I didn't even care to try. Not to mention that the situation in which you could easily die were abnormal ones. Also, I actually left the village this time. I made the current situation different than any so far, and it was best to assume I wouldn't loop again. That's probably the best way it was. I stayed in that city for a while and contacted certain people, telling them I would now be a farmer. That got me some serious trouble, but Yasumizu got no service. I cut ties with my previous life in 3 days, then entered a jewelry store, bought the ring with the nicest design. I had a gem as red as her eyes, covered in... It had a gem as red as her eyes, covered in gems as clear as her hair. It wasn't particularly expensive, but I felt like it suited her better than any of the others. Then, just as I promised, I returned to Fujiyoshi. I went to the officer, talked to the Higuchi-san, passed the mountain pass. arrived at Yasumizu and saw something I couldn't believe. Why? Why was everyone dead? Why was Yasunaka Orobi dead? He survived after saying goodbye to his best friend and a girl that was like a sister to him, hadn't he? Why was Yoshisuke Orobi dead? He'd made it through his mother's death and found common ground with his brother and had a whole life ahead of him. Why was Konzo Mikishima dead? He lost his granddaughter, protected Yasumizu, and was about to live out his twilight years in peace. Why was Takumi Omoro dead? The likable had discarded his inner discord, believed in himself, and helped us victory, didn't he? Why were all of their heads split open? It wasn't supposed to be over. We ended it all. That was how it was supposed to be, right? I begged, hoped that someone was still alive. If no one was, what would have been the point of these sacrifices? Found one, a survivor. He was covered in blood, and held an axe covered in blood and gray matter. Ha 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 ha! The wolves are coming! And then I went on to murder him. After all, on one of the support beams in the hall I found him in was her body hanging helplessly. What the hell? What was all this? Why had I thought that I had it all in the bag? Everything was dead. Everything was lost. And I hadn't reached an ending yet. Shinai, guardians are. The outside was shrouded in mist. 1 snake, 2 monkey, 3 crow, 4 spider. As though led by something. 5 prepare for the feast when the evening mists arrive. I pass the empty plaza. 6 the badger runs along late with snare as a fix. I went down the barren hills. 7 the corrupt Yomi Beto rise to oppose the mountain.
嬉しい。私に会いに来てくれた？
8 death of the damn you Beto is the mandate.
逃げられると思うたか？落ちよ。落ちて、落ちて、また落ち直せ。
9 1 soul per day now to bind. 10 the mist rise away again as I threw myself into Ransanaka mist. I felt like I could hear her voice. Rikoko, I couldn't fulfill my promise. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Please don't cry for me. I couldn't make you happy. I couldn't do anything to help you with to feel normal happiness. I couldn't dispel the darkness, and I couldn't even get close to the core of the mystery surrounding it. How? What could I have done here? I needed a new path. I had to find one that led me to the truth.